Tell him bring the guns out. Set my city up in flames. And yea, though I walk through the valley of the dead, my hope still remains. Whether dead or alive, this is do or die when Christ is the game. So raise your torches up high. Tonight is Rebel, Rebel 88.
Good day, Kingdom, and welcome to the Making All Christians Kingdom YouTube channel. This week, we're diving into part 3 on the series of identity, titled Identifying Your Element. The element in which we find ourselves is so important, simply because you can know your gift and you can know your purpose in life, but if you find yourself in the wrong element, trying to exercise your gift and trying to work out your purpose, but you're in the wrong element, you're going to feel like you're going nowhere fast. You're going to feel as if you're doing everything right, but not getting the intended results, the expected results. You will find yourself investing hard-earned resources, like your time and money, but getting nothing in return. Perhaps even losing what it is that you're pouring out into those around you, your creativity, your gift. And sometimes we find ourselves in elements because of other people or even our current circumstances place us there. It's like our parents wanting us to earn a certain degree in a subject which they find appropriate. And we find ourselves in a classroom working towards a degree that our parents wanted for us, or circumstances say that we need to give up on our vision of a better life, on our hopes and dreams, because we're getting older and investing time has turned into wasting time. Or we're working a mediocre job because we have a child on the way and our in-laws don't find it suitable that their son-in-law is a musician or their daughter-in-law is a makeup artist. So we drop what it is that we're destined to do in order to amount to the expectation of those whose approval we desire to obtain. And then midway through your life, you realize that it was in fact them who were living vicariously through you. So it's vitally important that we identify our true element, because it is where you'll truly flourish, truly reach your full potential. And let's look at the sailfish, or the black marlin, some are known as. It's the fastest known fish in the ocean. It could reach speeds of almost 70 miles an hour. But take it out of its element, and its God-given gift of speed, of being able to swim up to 70 miles an hour, is reduced to about 2 to 3 flops a minute. Because outside its element, it no longer has the ability to access its gift of speed. It's like if a cheetah, being the fastest land animal in the world, finds itself in a jungle, it will not be able to tap into its gift. Why? Because there are too many twists and turns, too many obstacles. The cheetah's gift is intended for an element that is open and vast. The element itself will have the room required for it to access its gift. And some of us are not given the anointing, or rather the ability, to work in certain atmospheres, in certain elements. We're not all given that grace. Some people are bold and brave, willing to speak up, the first to throw hands if it comes down to it, the first to always say something, and they can never be taken advantage of easily. This person would probably do great as an attorney, working in the defense of others, but may not be the best police officer. Why? Because this type of, let's call it personality, might not do good given too much authority, being put into a position of power, of much power, because it will tend to go to their heads. And when they need to be humbled, there might not be someone above them to bring them down a notch. You see, Uncle Ben got it twisted. We all remember that scene in Spider-Man.
Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
He said, with great power comes great responsibility. Uncle Ben is saying that responsibility is a result of having power. But a king is king because of the responsibility of having to take care of his subjects or her subjects. Because if a person seeking the power, and power in essence is authority. Jesus had power over the storm, over the deaf, over the blindness, over diseases because of the authority given to him by God the Father, by him. God the Father, his Father, which is in fact really him, but at a higher dimension. But I'm digressing. That's for another video. But if a person seeks to be king because of the power that comes with being king, they will not pursue the understanding of the responsibility of a king. And that power will more than likely result in corruption rather than grow into the responsibility that that position is meant for. So power is a result of responsibility. So in truth, it is with great responsibility comes great power. So your element is vitally important to your well-being and the amount of success that you can squeeze out of your life. And being in the wrong element will rob you of your faith, because you will feel like everything you do is for someone else, and all that hard work you're doing is not seen, let alone appreciated. It will also rob you of your gift. It's like the sailfish out of its element. All you can do to survive is hop around, lost, confused. It's like standing still on a moving train. Sure, you're going somewhere, but you have no control over what your destination is. But put yourself back in that water, aka your element, and watch all of a sudden the gift of speed come into play. And when you're flying through that water, soaring in your element, you find yourself saying, this is what I was born to do. This is what I'm meant to do. And you see, being in the wrong element will also rob you of your identity, because we tend to identify ourselves based on what we do. And what we do is identified by our element, which more often than not is not your true element, but rather just the environment you find yourself in. For example, if I ask you, what do? You will more than likely respond by saying, I am blank. And you do blank because of the environment that you are in is reserved for what it is that you're doing. Quick example. Hi, Mark. What do you do? Well, I'm an electrician. I'm an electrician because the environment I find myself in, which is around electrical components, wires, power plants, circuit boards, is reserved for electrical work, which is done by an electrician, which has now identified who I am, and what I do. Why didn't I say father, husband, public speaker, pastor, brother, son? Why? Because the environment I find myself in most of the time takes up most of my energy is that of an electrician. See, I have the tendency to over-explaining myself, but I hope you get what it is that I'm trying to say. But let's move on. There are 4 types of elements or environments that you may find yourself in. There's a wayside environment, a stony ground environment, thorny environments, and good ground environments. Let's look at Matthew chapter 13. Then he spoke many things to them in parables, saying, Behold, a sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some seed fell by the wayside, and the birds came and devoured them. Some fell on stony ground, where they did not have much earth, and they immediately sprang up because they had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, they were scorched. Because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell on thorns, and the thorns sprang up and choked them. But others fell on good ground and yielded a crop, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. Now, God was referring to the seed as the word of the kingdom, the revelation of the kingdom, the Bible, the word of God, Jesus, and the revelation that he brought when he descended to earth. but we will find ourselves in similar elements as the seeds in this parable find themselves. And let me explain. When you find yourself in a wayside environment, everything you do will be for nothing. The effort you put in immediately dissolves. It's like digging a trench, and behind you is a person filling it back in. Every time you look back, you can't tell what progress you've made. It becomes pointless. It's like stopping to smell the roses and coming to find out there are no roses to smell, only weeds and dead grass. You see, there are some people that when we look back into our past, to who we used to be, to where we used to hang out, they're still chilling on the wayside, smoking and drinking on the same corner, playing dominoes under the same tree. All the ideas and the great plans, hopes, and dreams that they have are born on that corner, and they die on that corner. They said Dogecoin, baby, to the moon, but they didn't cash out in time. Nah, but to be serious, their faith, though great, is motivated by temporary feelings and ride on the emotions that are triggered by controlled dopamine releases. And then you have the stony environments. And these are some places you will find yourself in that as soon as you start, you're just flourishing. The boss loves you, you understand everything quickly, and you might even think, man, I belong here. Everything is just great. But just as quickly as that comes, that feeling of completeness comes, it goes. And then you hit a plateau, finding yourself in a place of stagnation, cyclic behavior, predictability, and the desire for something new makes its way into your heart. But then the very need for a new challenge takes you out. The very thing you need in order to make you better, to make you stronger, wipes you out. You see, the seed needs the sun in order to fully develop. But if the roots are not established, the very same thing that you need in order to enter into that next phase of your development will consume you. Because you see, the seed needs to remain in the soil, in the dark place, in that place of humility for a while before it could spring out of the ground and into the world above. It needs to put that time in. It needs to develop deep roots. So when the challenges of this new life of being a plant comes into play, it can sustain itself and remain because it is no longer a seed. That phase has passed. That now plant can no longer depend on the nutrients that were once found and available in the seed. Those nutrients have been consumed. Now the plant needs to depend on its deep roots in order to reach deep down into the moisture of its past element during dry seasons. You see, when you find yourself in a drought, and that's spiritually speaking, you might be praying and asking God loud and clear, and you get nothing in return. No wind brushing against the back of your neck, no coincidental post on Facebook, no song playing at the right moment. You know what I mean? Those, oh, that's God talking moments. When you find yourself in this dry place, you will have to pull faith from the past. When God was faithful, when God showed out, when God kept his promises, even though you didn't deserve it. And you will have to say, if you did it before, you can do it again. You haven't failed me yet, and you won't start now. But if your roots can't reach far back enough, that very same fire you need that is meant to refine you like gold is refined, that very same heavy weight you need in order to get your weight up will crush you. The very same thing that was supposed to not kill you but make you stronger will for a fact destroy you. And then there are some elements that you will find yourself in, and that everyone around you is just out to get you, to kill and undermine every move you make. You're basically surrounded by haters and just thorns in your side, to say the least. But if you are not a thorn yourself and you don't have that defense yourself, you will find yourself choked out. You see, some people just got it like that. They can be this beautiful rose, but still have that bold, tough soul. And for them, it's enough to flourish in that environment of constantly having to defend themselves with a set of their own thorns. But this environment is not for everyone. The majority of people will be choked out before they can grow up enough to be transplanted into a different element or to be used in a way that will bring joy to others, kind of like roses for a mom or a wife. But look, I can't tell you what your perfect environment is, what the perfect environment for you is. That's going to take you questioning and keeping that question in your head and in your heart and meditating on it, praying on it. But I promise that God will place you in the right element. But remember this, God is a gentleman. If you choose to remain in your current circumstances, in your current situation, God will not help you. He might give you grace, and that is sufficient, but He has not given you more than you can handle. You will by no means be tempted beyond what you're able to handle, and that's facts. If you find yourself in that place, it's because you can handle it. But if you choose to remain in your current circumstances, in your current situation, you will more than likely remain there. Why? How? Because you choose by your actions. It's like the cliche saying goes, actions speak louder than words. You can say, God help me, God help me. But if you continue to remain in that place and always cry out from that place, you are choosing to remain in the jail cell of a situation that you keep praying about getting out of. But if you allow God to place you in the right element, like He placed Adam in the Garden of Eden, and in that garden He found His purpose, you will flourish like you can't believe. You will bear so much fruit. And the element doesn't necessarily mean the perfect job. It may mean to be married to the bone of your bone and the flesh of your flesh, meaning your God-given significant other. It may be moving to a city where you're meant to change the lives of people on a daily basis. But the point is that when you find yourself in a good ground environment, it will be like a tree planted by the river that never has to overreach its roots to find water, and it bears as much fruits as it possibly can. And no wind can knock it over, no fire can burn it down, no man can cut it down. You will be the greatest version of yourself, the person you know you have the potential to become, the person you already are, you just haven't introduced to the rest of the world yet. So as you go about this week, think to yourself, am I in the right environment? Should I still be living with my parents at their house? Should I still be working a 9 to 5? Should I still be with this guy or with this girl? Ask yourself, am I in the environment meant for me? Thank you guys, and I'll see you next week.